on, but we start with the breaking news out of the NBA. The Warriors beat the Knicks. That's the news, right? No. They did beat the Knicks last night, 105-96, but the headline and the story was that Steph Curry solidified himself as the official greatest shooter of all time last night, passed Ray Allen for the most three-pointers made in NBA history. He now has 2,977 and counting. Absolute spectacle yesterday at Madison Square Garden. And this sounds paradoxical, but sports and life are really antitheses because life is so unpredictable. Every single day, life hands us something new. Life hands us something unexpected. And yet, in sports, so often sports deliver us serendipity. Sports deliver us precise moments happening at the perfect time. You look across the sports landscape when Tiger Woods won his first PGA championship, his first tour win, it came at the Masters in 1997. And after his stretch of dominance through 2008, after all the off the course transgressions and the multiple back surgeries, and when it looked like a major had eluded him for over a decade and there were doubts as to whether or not he would ever return to glory in 2019, of course, it was only fitting the first major he'd win post all of those incidences was at the Masters. When Kobe Bryant played his final game at Staples Center in a season in which he was laboring, it was arduous. He looked like a shell of himself, and yet in his final game of his career, he dropped 60 points at Staples Center. Tom Brady recently, it was only fitting that he would throw his 700th touchdown pass against, or record his 700th, not 700th touchdown pass, but record his 700th touchdown against the Buffalo Bills, the team who he has had the most success against over the course of his entire career. It was only fitting that Ray Allen would pass Reggie Miller for the NBA's all-time three-pointers made record against the Lakers in 2011 when their rivalry was at its most contentious point. And it was only fitting that Reggie Miller was on that TNT call. And last night, it was pretty surreal that Steph Curry would pass Ray Allen to break this record at Madison Square Garden. It was only fitting that that was the venue that it would occur at, because that was the venue that really made Steph Curry's career. That game against the New York Knicks in 2013, Wednesday, February 27th, 2013. He drops 54 points at the Garden, makes 11 three-pointers. It was an iconic performance. The Warriors lost, but it was a career high for Steph. No one had ever seen an individual player make 11 three-pointers in a single game, and yet he did that at that specific venue. And leading up to this game, there was so much buzz, so much pent-up anxiety from the crowds, let alone from Steph. We were starting to count down. There was chatter over a week ago when he was 16 three-pointers away. And the scuttlebutt was, wow, what a narrative it would be if Steph Curry passed Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson's record for 14 threes in a single game en route to breaking the NBA's all-time three-pointers made record. Wouldn't that be something? And then it dropped to 10 when he was at Philadelphia. How special would that be? And then after Philly, it was in Indiana when he had 6 threes to go. Could he accomplish this feat? And it was only fitting that the basketball gods would say, nope, we don't want this to happen in Philly. We don't want this to happen in Indiana. We want this to happen at the Mecca, at Madison Square Garden. And it's just serendipitous that we had that performance and that moment at that venue. And what made it extra special and extra touching was to see the embrace that he had with his teammates, with his family, the hug that he gave his father. the hug that he gave to Ray Allen, the fact that Reggie Miller was in attendance, the fact that his coach at Davidson was in attendance, the fact that it happened at Madison Square Garden, that they stopped the game for 3 minutes to provide him profuse praise and adulation. It was just one of the most special individual moments that I've ever experienced, especially when it comes to the NBA. Because I've said this before, Steph Curry is one of the 4 most revolutionary basketball players of all time. One of the 4 most influential basketball players of all time. Magic Johnson kind of created the showtime, the entertainment. He brought the entertainment value to basketball. It became a spectacle to go watch an NBA game because of Magic Johnson. Michael Jordan globalized the sport. Air Jordan, the marketing, the shoe game. That was all because of Jordan. LeBron engendered more player empowerment, more player mobility. And Steph revolutionized the game with his three-point shooting ability. He basically immortalized the three-point shot. He may have single-handedly transformed the three-point shot into the most valuable shot in the NBA. And that's because of the way that he plays the game. Now you see bigs practicing stepping behind the three-point line and jacking up threes. Why? Because it's a necessity. It's a shot you absolutely have to master if you want any court time. That's just the reality and the nature of the sport now. And the Warriors are just the most artistic basketball team that we're seeing right now. There was a great piece written by Jason Gay, who's a Wisconsin Badger alum, along with myself, of course. And he perfectly summed it up because he drew the comparison between Steph Curry and Roger Federer when he talked about the elegance, the grace, the effortlessness that they both played, the universal appeal, the fact that they're the most beloved athletes across the sports world. And why? Because of that joy, because of that passion. When you watch Steph Curry play, it's not simply the shooting that makes him so special. Obviously, the shooting is spectacular, but it's the unselfishness. It's the ball movement. It's the screens. It's the cuts. It's the joy that he plays with. He has this kind of effervescence about him that is contagious because you see how it rubs off on the team, how willing they are to make the extra pass, how willing they are to set the screens and to run the backdoor cuts and to do all this movement. And the stamina and the endurance that takes, people don't give him enough credit for what he's been able to accomplish. And it was funny because Draymond Green actually made a comment saying that because Andrew Wiggins was the one who set him up for that record-breaking three-pointer. Draymond Green was surprised that Andrew Wiggins passed up that shot. He says that Andrew Wiggins never, ever passes up that shot. But in that moment, he found Steph, and he kind of said it jokingly, that he was willing to give it up for Steph in that moment. And again, obviously a lot of credit has to go to Steve Kerr for the way that he's been able to coach these guys to implement this system. But I think that in large part, the credit has to go to Steph for his willingness to set that tone, to be the leader, to show and be the example for the teammates to follow. And you just see how that spreads and permeates that entire locker room. And of course, they're also the best defensive team in the league. They hold opponents to the fewest points, fewest opponent field goal percentage. They share the basketball. They had 28 assists last night, which was a staple during their championship run when they made 3 NBA Finals appearances in 5 years. Or actually, I should rephrase that. They made 5 consecutive NBA Finals. They won 3 titles in that stretch. So the only difference between 2013 and 2021 for Steph was in that performance back then, the Warriors lost the game versus in 2021 they won. And that was the main difference.